Clara Marshall was a 42-year-old theology professor from Minnesota, a woman deeply rooted in her faith and academic pursuits. Her days were often filled with lectures on scripture, discussions about church history, and moments of quiet reflection. Despite her busy schedule, she made time for her morning runs, which allowed her to pray and organize her thoughts for the day ahead. It was during one such run, on a crisp October morning, that her life changed forever. As she approached her third mile, Clara suddenly felt a searing pain in her chest. It was unlike anything she had ever experienced, sharp and consuming, radiating down her left arm. She staggered to a stop, her breaths shallow and rapid. In her confusion, she thought of her health-conscious lifestyle and her lack of family history of heart problems. This can't be happening, she thought, moments before collapsing on the pavement. Before continuing, I wanted to ask you a quick favor. Our goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and your help is very important. So if you subscribe and comment subscribed, I will respond to your comment as a thank you. Thank you very much for your support. Now let's continue. Unknown to Clara at the time, she was experiencing what doctors later identified as a massive cardiac arrest, a widowmaker heart attack. But what followed was far more extraordinary than the clinical realities of her condition. As her heart ceased its rhythm, Clara felt herself separate from her physical body. She hovered above the scene, watching as a jogger rushed to her aid, performing CPR and frantically dialing for help. It was surreal, as though she was both observer and participant in the scene below. Then, an overwhelming light engulfed her. She was no longer tied to the earthly realm but found herself in a space that radiated purity and warmth. The light seemed alive, vibrant with an energy she could not describe but felt intrinsically connected to. It was here, in this dimension of light, that Clara encountered the figure who would redefine her life, Jesus Christ. His presence was undeniable, exuding authority and compassion in equal measure. He was not the figure from stained glass windows or European paintings. Instead, he appeared as a first-century Jewish man, his features reflecting his heritage. Yet, it wasn't his appearance that captivated Clara. It was his eyes, filled with a depth of love and sorrow that seemed to pierce her very soul. Jesus spoke, his voice resonating like a melody within her. He told Clara that she had been chosen for a mission, one that would challenge her understanding of faith and traditions. Satan, he explained, has woven deceptions into Christian traditions over centuries, leading many astray. The time has come for these truths to be revealed. Overwhelmed yet humbled, Clara listened as Jesus told her she would be shown truths that had been hidden, truths that could liberate the faithful from long-standing misconceptions. Though the weight of the mission frightened her, she felt an undeniable call to serve. And so, her journey of revelation began, setting the stage for a series of visions that would shake her faith and purpose to their core. As Clara stood in the radiant presence of Jesus, the scene around her began to shift. The brilliant light faded, giving way to a lush, vibrant garden. She instinctively knew where she was, the Garden of Eden, the place where humanity's story had begun. The air was thick with life, every blade of grass and leaf brimming with a vitality that seemed almost otherworldly. Yet, there was an underlying tension in the beauty, a sense of something unresolved. Jesus directed her attention to a figure in the distance. It was Satan, though not as she had ever imagined him. He was not the grotesque horned creature of folklore, but rather a being of striking beauty and elegance, his appearance almost mesmerizing. Clara felt a chill despite his outward charm. He exuded an aura of deceit, a predator cloaked in allure. As she watched, the infamous moment unfolded before her. Eve approached the forbidden tree, her curiosity piqued by the serpent's beguiling words. Clara's eyes were drawn to the fruit. It wasn't the bright red apple of popular tradition. Instead, it was an unremarkable fruit, its appearance insignificant compared to the weight of the act itself. Jesus spoke gently but firmly. The enemy's greatest trick here was not the fruit but the focus on it. By diverting attention to the object, Satan obscured the true issue, disobedience and mistrust of God. Clara was struck by the simplicity of the deception and its profound consequences. Jesus explained that the apple misconception arose from a linguistic confusion in later translations, where the Latin word malum evil was conflated with malus apple. Over centuries, this trivialization had shifted humanity's focus from the deeper spiritual lessons of the fall. The enemy thrives on misdirection, Jesus continued. By emphasizing insignificant details, he blinds people to the profound truths of trust and obedience. Clara felt the weight of this revelation. She had taught the story countless times but had never questioned the enduring fixation on the fruit. Now, she saw how such a minor distortion could obscure the heart of God's message. Before she could fully process what she had seen, the garden faded away, and a new vision began to form. Jesus' voice resonated once more, guiding her forward. There is more you must understand. As Clara's vision shifted, she found herself standing in a vast desert, the cool night air filled with the brilliance of countless stars. In the distance, she saw a caravan approaching, its torches flickering like tiny beacons against the darkness. The figures riding on camels and leading the procession were not the familiar three kings of Christmas lore. Instead, she saw a larger group of scholars, their ornate robes and deliberate movements reflecting a sense of purpose. Jesus stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the approaching travelers. These, he explained, are the Magi, learned men from the East, skilled in astronomy and ancient prophecies. They are not kings, nor are they three in number, as tradition claims. Their journey represents a deeper search for truth, a pursuit of the divine. Clara observed as the Magi followed the celestial sign, their eyes scanning the heavens with wonder and resolve. When they finally arrived in Bethlehem, it wasn't at a stable or manger, but a modest house where a young child, not a newborn, awaited them. Their gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, were presented with reverence, each symbolizing a profound truth about Jesus' identity and mission. Jesus spoke, his tone steady yet sorrowful. The myth of the three kings named Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar was a fabrication born of human tradition. It shifted the focus away from the gift's prophetic significance: gold for my kingship, frankincense for my deity, and myrrh for my sacrifice. By reducing their story to mere legend, the enemy diluted its profound meaning. Clara was struck by the subtlety of this distortion. The Magi's journey was one of worship and revelation, yet tradition had reduced it to a charming but shallow narrative. Before she could dwell further, Jesus' voice echoed, drawing her into the next vision. There is more for you to see. The scene shifted once more, and Clara found herself in a bustling marketplace near the shores of a serene lake. The sounds of merchants haggling and children laughing filled the air. Jesus gestured toward a woman standing near a row of fishing nets, her hands busy mending the worn fibers. Clara immediately recognized her as Mary Magdalene, though not in the way history had so often painted her. She was not a prostitute, Jesus began, his tone a mixture of sorrow and frustration. Mary of Magdala was a woman of standing and courage, yet the enemy twisted her story into a lie that would diminish her testimony for centuries. As he spoke, Clara saw flashes of Mary's life unfold: her encounter with Jesus, her deliverance from 7 demons, and her unwavering dedication as one of his most faithful followers. Jesus explained that the false narrative of Mary Magdalene's life was the result of conflating 3 distinct women mentioned in the scriptures: Mary of Magdala, the sinful woman who anointed his feet, and Mary of Bethany. Over time, these identities were merged, creating a distorted version of Mary Magdalene that would overshadow her true legacy. The vision shifted to the foot of the cross. Clara watched as Mary Magdalene stood steadfast, even as others fled. She saw Mary's determination as she prepared burial spices and her joy upon encountering the risen Christ. She was the first to witness my resurrection, Jesus said. The enemy worked tirelessly to discredit her because of the power of her testimony. By branding her a sinner, he aimed to undermine the credibility of my resurrection. Clara felt the weight of this revelation deeply. How many women, she wondered, had been discouraged from embracing their spiritual calling because of this lie? Jesus continued, his voice steady. This deception was calculated. It wasn't just about Mary, it was about limiting the role of women in my church, tarnishing their ministry, and silencing their voices. As the vision faded, Clara reflected on the profound injustice done to Mary Magdalene. Her heart ached for the generations of women who had been burdened by this falsehood. But Jesus' voice broke through her thoughts, guiding her forward once more. The enemy's distortions run deep. There is more for you to see. As Clara's thoughts lingered on Mary Magdalene, the vision shifted once more. This time, she found herself standing in the heart of ancient Rome, surrounded by the grandeur of temples and the revelry of a festival. The air was alive with music and laughter, yet beneath the surface was an unsettling sense of idolatry. Clara instinctively knew she was witnessing a celebration of the Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquered sun. Jesus stood beside her, his expression solemn. This festival, he explained, was deeply ingrained in Roman culture. It celebrated the winter solstice, marking the rebirth of the sun after its longest night. The enemy seized upon this moment to infiltrate my church. Clara watched as the vision shifted to scenes of early Christian leaders grappling with the spread of their faith in a pagan world. Jesus explained how, around 350 AD, Pope Julius I designated December 25th as the official celebration of his birth. It was a strategic move, intended to offer an alternative to the pervasive pagan festivities, yet it came at a cost. The enemy's strategy was subtle but effective, Jesus continued. By blending my birth celebration with pagan traditions, he diluted its significance and disconnected it from its true context. The vision showed shepherds tending their flocks under a warm, starry sky, a stark contrast to the cold of December. Jesus revealed that his birth likely occurred in the autumn, possibly during the Feast of Tabernacles, a time when God's presence was celebrated dwelling among his people. Clara felt a pang of sadness as she saw how this blending of traditions had persisted through the centuries. Jesus' voice was steady but filled with purpose. By focusing on the date rather than the meaning, the enemy shifted the celebration away from the profound truth of my incarnation. My birth was not just an event, it was the fulfillment of prophecy, a declaration that God had come to dwell among his people. The vision moved through time, showing Clara the commercialization and secularization of Christmas in modern culture. She realized how far the celebration had drifted from its sacred roots. Before she could reflect further, Jesus' voice broke through her thoughts. The deceptions run deeper still. Come, there is more for you to understand. As the vision shifted again, Clara found herself surrounded by grand paintings and sculptures displayed in a timeless gallery. The pieces were familiar, depicting Jesus as he had often been portrayed, a man with flowing brown hair, fair skin, and a gentle, almost ethereal presence. Yet, something about these images felt dissonant in the wake of her earlier encounter with him. Jesus stood beside her, his expression filled with sorrow. The enemy has used these depictions to distort the understanding of who I truly am, he said. By presenting me as a figure of European ideals, Satan severed the connection between my humanity and my heritage. Clara watched as the gallery shifted to scenes of Jesus in his earthly form, a man of first-century Jewish descent. His olive-toned skin was weathered by the sun, and his dark, cropped hair framed features that reflected his time and place. It was a stark contrast to the images Clara had grown up seeing. The only description of my appearance is found in Isaiah 53 verse 2, Jesus continued. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. Yet the world has reimagined me to fit its own narratives. The gallery then transformed, showing angels as they had often been depicted, soft, cherubic figures with delicate wings and halos. Jesus gestured, and these images dissolved, replaced by the true nature of angels, majestic, fearsome beings of immense power. Clara saw the cherubim, their forms radiating strength, and the seraphim, with 6 wings in perpetual motion as they sang praises to God. These were warriors and messengers, not the decorative figures of art. Satan's strategy here was deliberate, Jesus explained. By diminishing my image and the role of angels, he weakened the understanding of spiritual warfare and my connection to humanity. The battle for truth is far greater than many realize. As the gallery faded, Clara felt the weight of these distortions. But before she could dwell further, Jesus' voice called her onward. There is still more you must witness. The scene around Clara shifted again, and she now stood in what seemed to be a vast expanse of time and space, where moments from the past, present, and future unfolded before her. Jesus gestured toward the streams of light and motion, and Clara saw herself lying in a hospital bed, frantically writing the details of her first encounter with him. Her hand trembled as she documented every word, every vision, ensuring that nothing would be forgotten. You were faithful, Jesus said, his voice filled with warmth. Even in your weakness, you shared the truths I revealed to you. Clara watched as the vision shifted to her family. Her husband, initially skeptical, began to understand the significance of her testimony. She saw her colleagues, their initial surprise giving way to thoughtful consideration, and her students, their eyes opening to the depth of the scriptures in new ways. These small ripples of change, she realized, were only the beginning. Jesus then showed her churches around the world, pastors examining their teachings, congregations engaging in deeper study, and individuals breaking free from misconceptions. Clara saw translations of her testimony reaching believers in distant lands, each word sparking questions, discussions, and revelations. But the vision wasn't without resistance. She saw faces of doubt and heard voices of criticism, dismissing her as delusional or misguided. Yet, amidst the doubt, there was hope. An elderly pastor, speaking to his congregation, declared, "For 50 years, I preached traditions without question. Now, I see the truth. We must return to the Word. As the vision faded, Jesus turned to Clara. The enemy's deceptions are deeply rooted, but the truth is breaking through. Your obedience has set this in motion. Now, you must continue. His words resonated within her, a call to persevere despite the challenges. The journey wasn't over. As Clara stood in the fading light of the visions, a profound sense of purpose washed over her. The revelations she had witnessed were not just warnings or corrections, they were a call to action. Jesus had shown her the intricate tapestry of truth, woven through the scriptures, and how the enemy's deceptions had unraveled parts of it over time. Now, it was her mission to help restore what had been lost. Reflecting on the journey, Clara felt both the weight of responsibility and the strength of divine support. Jesus' words echoed in her heart. These revelations are not to condemn but to restore. My church is beloved, and I desire it to worship in spirit and truth. It was clear to her now, this was not about judging those who had embraced traditions unknowingly, but about guiding them toward a purer understanding of faith. Clara addressed those who would hear her story, encouraging them to examine their beliefs with both humility and courage. Study the scriptures, she urged. Pray for discernment and seek the truth that Jesus offers. He loves his church too much to leave it in deception, but the question remains, are we willing to embrace the truth when it challenges our comfort? She thought of the countless lives already touched by her testimony and the many more who might hear it. Her heart swelled with hope and determination. While the enemy's distortions had caused division and confusion, Clara believed that truth had the power to unite, heal, and liberate. As the vision fully faded and she returned to her body, Clara knew that the path ahead would not be easy. But with each step, she felt reassured by the truth she carried and the God who had called her. Her journey was just beginning, and the mission to unveil the truth had become her life's purpose. Leave your opinion in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that we can reach the mark of 1,000 subscribers. With your help we will be able to reach this number as quickly as possible. Thank you for being there, and next time.